I've gone through being a parachutist, material manager, capabilities developer. My portfolio at the time was route clearance equipment, and I've been a material developer in PEO ground combat systems. So pretty much, sir, from private to CW5, I've touched it all for automotive or maintenance, worked at every echelon.
Welcome back to In General Terms. I am Major General Michael Lalor, the Commanding General for U.S. Army TACOM, and very excited as we welcome in our Command Chief Warrant Officer from TACOM, CW5 Maxine Williams, my teammate here, and we're going to talk some maintenance today. I've been very excited about getting Chief on here and talking about all things maintenance, where we're at, and where we are going. She is the Senior Automotive Technician and Advisor to the Commander while serving as the Command Chief. And she is indispensable in her experience and the technical advice that she provides both me and our teammates throughout the command. So welcome, Chief.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Just thinking about this had me looking back into my career, which I've not really done before. It's pretty colorful, I would say, as I go and try to kind of jot down a few things. I'll start by saying I am an immigrant from Jamaica. I came to the United States the same month that I turned 20 years old. I lived in New York City. About 90 days after immigrating here, I called a recruiter to ask if they had any brochures after seeing the Be All You Can Be commercial on TV. I do not believe that I hung up the phone. He was at my door with pizza. That's how quick that went up.
That's quick.
So I got here in July. I signed up in October, and in March, I was in basic training, not even a year in the country. While in reception, I heard things like, hey, you got to be able to do a push-up just so you can make it start basic training. I didn't know how to do a push-up, but I learned to do one just so I could move on. And 2-mile run, I was like, what's that? But I figured it out. The ruck marches were pretty easy. It reminded me of taking a hike at grandma's house in the country during a summer vacation. Then I started off as a 63 whiskey, which was back then a DS level maintainer, third level maintenance.
There you go.
For wheel vehicles, and also at the rank of staff sergeant, my MOS changed to 63 hotel, a track vehicle maintainer. From private, I was doing both wheels and tracks. I was assigned to both light infantry and heavy units and worked in almost all vehicles, starting from your basic Humvee to tanks, Brads, Paladins, M88s. My first duty station was Fort Ord, California. I've gone through plenty of jobs. I started, when you graduate AIT, if you're the top of the class or whatever, top 10%, you go to recovery school. So I had that opportunity as well.
There you go.
So my first unit, I actually learned how to operate in school then, 816 records or 800 series. That's how long ago this was, 92.
Wow.
And my first unit, after I left Fort Ord, we moved with BRAC, closed everything down and moved over to now JBLM. And we had a 936 record, and I'm kind of keeping the record theme just to show you how it goes. So then later on, I had a Hemet record. I still think it's the best record in the Army.
Yeah, it's a great piece of equipment.
Later on, I became an instructor at the Ordnance School for recovery. So teaching how to use the M88 to recover tanks and Brads. So that's the whole record thing.
There you go. There you go. Go on, Chief.
So Ordnance. And through all of that, one of the things I noticed as I look back again into my career, I've never left the motor pool. All the ranks, I've stayed in the motor pool. Sometimes the female maintainers, they'll take us and put us in the orderly room, the 3-shop training. As I look through my career, sir, I never left. Even with my 2 pregnancies, I was in the motor pool. So that was pretty interesting. Again,
Great.
This podcast had me looking back at, oh, wow, that is interesting. I've gone through being a parachutist, a material manager, capabilities developer. My portfolio at the time was route clearance equipment. And I've been a material developer in PEO ground combat systems on your tanks, your Bradleys, your M88s, your MVs, your Paladin, and your Strikers. So that was the job I had before coming here. So pretty much, sir, from private to CW5, I've pretty much touched it all for automotive or maintenance. Worked at every echelon. I didn't do division. I was dual military at the time, and it was hard. It's like, okay, this is the only place we have for you to go, so you're going here. So that kind of based on timing, sir. You know how the jobs are. You get them based on timing. So that's probably the one thing I didn't have the opportunity to do. But other than that, I pretty much hit every benchmark from private to W5 in the maintenance arena. No drill sergeant, no recruiter, none of it, sir.
I think it speaks to the skill and talent you bring to the mission. And what a fabulous background to get you here, right? Because I think that no one's better equipped, I think, with their skill set to be in this job, serving in this role. We're blessed to have you. And we're glad to have you on here today, too, because, us talking maintenance and kind of where we're at, where we're going is going to, I think it will shed some light on some good topics and help people out there getting to know what you bring to the fight, but then also getting to know kind of where we're going with, some of the things going on with maintenance in the Army. And it is an interesting time, right? When you think about what we got going on, you and I talk it all the time. So given the last, decade now, we've been shifting back more from maintenance in a kind of a counterinsurgency construct where we were serving in Afghanistan, Iraq, and some fixed sites. Now we're training more with large-scale combat operations, and we're thinking about maintenance. It's a good time for us to be putting that experience to use and then shaping that environment so our maintainers can be successful both now and going forward. When you think about for maintainers today and some of the biggest challenges out there, what do you think are the biggest challenges that our maintainers, whether they're whatever level, soldiers, NCOs, warrant officers, wherever the case, what do you think are some of the bigger challenges out there for our maintainers are up against right now?
Sure, I'd say one of the biggest things is time constraint. That's the one resource we can never get back. It is a thing. You find less and less white space on the calendar. As you look through the .mil-PF spectrum, training is the big one. And what a lot of people do not understand, and I'm glad you asked that question, sir, folks sometimes do not realize that many soldiers, what they do in the military, it's the first time they've been experienced to it. So let's use the maintainer. You may have a maintainer who's never picked up a wrench ever in their life. They literally just joined the Army. They went to school. They say, this is a wrench. This is how you learn to do troubleshooting. This is how you read a technical manual. This is how you read a schematic. They do not know. And it's a learning thing. PME in the schoolhouse, it's a short time. You can't have us in the schoolhouse forever. So you're there roughly 3 to 5 months on and off, depending on the MOS. You go to school, then the maintainer goes to the unit to learn OJT, and you just have to figure it out as you go with the mission. But time, training is a big thing. Leadership is a big deal. Even as a warrant officer, I tell my commander, sir, I am good as you are, because I could advise all day. I can get the motor pool going. I can get the team motivated and going. But if the commander doesn't give me that top cover to help me and help push the mission and help everyone to bring maintenance together, this operator and maintainer effort as a unit, we're not going to get anywhere. It's kind of hard to keep maintainers too, sir. I can't think of a motor pool that has all their maintainers right now. So you're working with a fleet that's very challenging. Modernization, as good as it is, it's a double-edged sword because you have all these technologies, things break, and if you don't have the training to understand how to repair them or get it back in the fight, that is a challenge. One of the things I know, being in the motor pool that worked for me, and I say this to you all the time, I believe we need to invest in our maintainer training in the unit. What do I mean by that?
Great.
We have AR 350-1 training. It's mandatory. How are we investing in all our MOSs? But right now, there's not a deliberate, focused effort for maintainers to learn and practice their craft separate from turning wrenches. I'm not talking about scheduled maintenance. I'm not talking about unscheduled maintenance. I'm in the motor pool. What are the strengths and weaknesses of my maintainers? When I was in Iraq, perfect. My first deployment, luckily, I had my entire shop. It's the first and last time I had that. I was able to split my team, one team for scheduled maintenance, one team for unscheduled maintenance. Every 90 days, I switched them out. But what I noticed is I walk through the shop every day and I'm working on things. We had challenges. And I share this with you, MSD, perfect.
Yep.
I sat down and was like, hey, we're going to stand down. Got it? We're in combat. But we found some time. And this is a big issue. I'm having more challenges because the maintainers were lacking the experience and knowledge they need, and it doesn't get any better. So we had to stand down, and we will do this training. One example was MSD, and I still have a photo of it. I've just got to find it, sir. But we had all MSDs laid out. My NCOs were there. I led the training, and that's important.
Yes.
These trainings that I'm talking about, they need to be led by warrant officers and NCOs. And I'm a big advocate of that. And I know it's going to be an issue because, like I said, the calendar and the white space is an issue, sir. But again, AR 350-1, we do it. Why can't we do that? Invest in our maintainers. Give them something so they can learn and hone their skill sets. We can't just rely on the institution. At the unit, we need to do something.
I think that's great. Invested in the maintainers. And I'm a proponent of that. I love it. I asked for challenges for maintainers, and there are many, right? And so time is always one that's been going on. As you know, I like to say that's been going on since 1775, right? This has been a challenge for units in the field, whether they're maintaining equipment or now ground systems. Time's always a challenge, right? But no one's going to give you more time. You're going to have to make some hard decisions and invest in some of that time to do some training with your soldiers and kind of build that skill set. And you're right. And I love where you talked about that the leader, he or she has to be proficient in their tasks so that they can impart their experience to the maintainer and make that investment and build the skill set, right? Because you're never going to be able to train a maintainer, whether it's an entry-level maintainer or a non-commissioned officer or a warrant officer, everything they're going to need to know in a finite period of time. You're going to have someone advance them along and build their skill set and build upon that base of knowledge that they got when they get to the unit. And never more important to that is going to be now when we are in this biggest period of modernization in the Army in our lifetime, for about 45 years since, the Abrams and all the big five came in back in the late 70s, early 80s. You got multiple systems coming in here, new systems, the AMP-V, the Booker is on its way now. The JLTV's out there, where we're going with XM30 and you're going to have autonomous systems. I mean, there's 30 some odd modernization efforts that I'm going. Who's going to catch those on the other end? There's going to be a maintainer sitting there with a big catcher's mitt because I always say, maintainers, since we are in the middle of football season, we're always in a zone defense. There's more systems coming at us than there are maintainers. It's very important for the leaders to be proficient in the tasks and be able to train and build on that base of knowledge. And we need maintainers never like we had before, given the amount and multitude of systems. We're going to need maintainers to be problem solvers. Problem solvers at the point of attack in a unit maintenance collection point to essentially to triage or to build back readiness so we can execute the next mission, repair and return we can, evacuate what we can't to a higher level of maintenance, all the things that But the big thing is we need critical thinkers, we need problem solvers, and those are some challenges that we got to work through for some of our maintainers. And like you said, time is always a big constraint. And one of the things that has been out there the last year, and you've been a big part of it, a big leader in the community with it, with your peers, is rethinking how we're doing services for systems, not just our ground systems, but all that support it. And we're starting to think about where we have made a conscious decision in the Army now to move more toward a usage-based system versus a traditional time-based system. And the idea of that was to give the maintainers free up time to do unscheduled maintenance. Because I always like to say, or I'm definitely not the only one who's ever said it, but I'm fond of saying, hey, we over-service in many cases, we under-maintain. And so if you're going to create some more time, then you got to do it. So we're in the early stages of that. Like you said, you've been at the forefront of it. What do you think about the usage-based and some of the shifts we're doing with services and what you'd like to see evolve?
Roger, sir. Folks ask, why are we still doing semi-annual services? And the answer is, well, that's how we used to do it back in the day. What is it, 1939? I believe it is. We've been doing this. So here we are. It starts with the requirements document. We have to get that right and stop trading away sustainment. But in my MatDev hat on, that's the first thing to go in the requirements document. We do performance specs. Things get cut. And by the time the contracts are written and the equipment makes it to the field, then sustainment's cut a lot. Make the platform smarter. Invest in on-platform diagnostics. So we have on-platform, at-platform, and off-platform. Why don't we get the platform so smart that myself as a maintainer, whatever maintenance support device or diagnostic, whatever I have for follow-on troubleshooting at the platform, make that small, maybe 2%. But that off-platform, sending things to go test, where we need to get rid of that concept of maintenance and support as we think about these MDO changes, sir. To your question on the equipment service optimization, there's been studies done to show some platforms it's okay to do that. I've been in the community here for a while, and what we've observed, it started with the non-combat operations plan, the NCOMP, push the services, especially on the wheel fleet, push the systems, move the services to 2 years and see what happens should we do that. and leaving the mileage trigger. Should something hit 3,000 miles, okay, we need to take it in and service it. Should something hit 6,000 miles? What the data also shows is that we're not using the equipment as much. So we spend time on servicing it. I'll give you a perfect example. At Cavazos, 3CR, they would deploy and would induct the equipment into UME. So the civilians would do services and they stagger it for 12 months. Back then, it was the highest level service to put it in low usage. So you put these strikers into low usage program, but before you could put them in there, you'd have to service them. They didn't even get done. The unit was coming back and they weren't finished. And then the unit comes, they're home for about a year or so. Then they're deploying again and those vehicles went back. And sometimes they didn't get the usage. As you know, our platforms, I pulled the Z users report a few months ago on that fleet, and I forgot what the number is, but it's a low percentage that hit 3,000 miles per year. So
Small.
Right. So it's like our car, sir. My car, I have to go in once a year. That's it to get anything done, my scheduled maintenance. And that's probably because they want to make more money. But so far, the data is showing that us moving the service to the right, so far from what we were seeing, no one's saying, hey, this is not working. Time will tell. We're still in an assessment period for some of the fleet. Right now for the wheel fleet, sir, for the CS and CSS equipment, I believe we're moving in the right direction. Yep. The ground combat systems, I say we take that with caution. I know we have some conditions-based maintenance like AOAP that we still use to see, when we need to change oil and filters. But I think it's case by case, especially as we watch the fires. And those platforms, when they burn, they go down. You lose a tank. You lose a striker FUP is whatever $1 million, I believe, something like that. You're losing both engine and transmission when you get those fires. It's not pretty. So that's just the concern as we do it. And I know change, folks are resistant to change. It's just human nature, sir. We just embrace it, do the right thing, and the data. Just follow the data, sir, and see what's occurring and just assess. That's all we can do at this time, sir, to make an informed decision on these changes.
No, you're 100% right. We're a lot aligned. I'm excited about where we're going, and we're adapting. So we need to adapt. I'm excited where we're going with the wheels as well. I think that there's a place for the usage based model versus the time-based model. Again, we got to remember a couple things. One, maintenance is an operation. I always say maintenance is not a separate administrative function. So this goes back to maintainers in the field. If we're truly in units, whether you're in a combat unit, combat support unit, combat service support unit, whatever the case, no one's calling a call timeout so you can do maintenance. You got to do maintenance all the time so that you're able to function on a day-to-day basis and execute your mission. So that's why that unscheduled part of the maintenance comes in. You're going to have maintenance that you didn't see coming that you got to do to keep your mission going. So if we can unencumber the maintainers from the traditional time-based service schedule on systems we know are smart to do that on, then you're right there. I'm a heretic. I'm a changer. I'm for the good of the maintainers, for the good of the units. I'm all in to change it. On the ground combat systems, I want to see the data drive us in the right direction. I think what's going to happen is eventually we're going to get to a more precise application of what needs to be serviced. There might be specific components of the system that have to get serviced on a time-based basis, and some may not. Basically, I want to see going after maintenance with a scalpel instead of just a machete in terms of services, because to your point, on the Striker or on the M88, if we don't do certain things with the hull and the engine checks, we're going to have a fire. So let's do those based on the 25, 30 with the Abrams 44 years of data we got and apply that and go after it with more precise. And then, things like NBC systems. We know NBC systems, if filters are not changed out in the Abrams and different things, we've seen that cause functions, problems, fires, and so on. So I'm just building on what you're saying is the data will help drive us. But I would like us, instead of jumping forward and just saying everything goes to the usage-based immediately, we can move there, but let's do some good analysis in the data, then let's adjust and with very precise thought, go after some components that got to be serviced and we know for the safety of the crew or the functionality of the system smartly. I don't know what you know. Go ahead.
That, sir. The one thing I should mention, this does not work if we don't have the operator maintenance right.
That's right.
The operator PMCS. For example, the M88 belly plates, right? Fire. I think the after operation check says to take it out, make sure everything is good. And If you're using the 88 for the first time, you're supposed to do PMCS and check all of that. Well, we were finding out that units would take them out. The belly plates were not installed. They weren't doing the operator PMCS like they should, especially if they were the first time user. And we had, debris and we had fire. That was just one example. Striker, same thing. It's an operator task to drain the oil. So all of this, having operator PMCS not done correctly, this will not work.
That's right. Our Army maintenance system is a system, and everybody has a role in that system. The system doesn't work in a vacuum. And if not everybody's playing their part, we'll not get where we need to go. We got a lot of initiatives going on here that we're driving forward in TACOM, whether it's advanced manufacturing, as you know, telemaintenance and things of that nature. But I look at it too, though, not just what we're doing, helping drive some things from the strategic to the tactical, but what is the environment for that maintainer? So I'll give you a little bit of my vision for it, and then I'd like to hear how you see it, right? I want to see that maintainer be able to really be a true technician, like some of our civilian automotive counterparts, and they are, but I want to see us kind of move more toward that role. And that's kind of the reason we reintroduced the maintenance technician badge and things of that, to kind of reintroduce the pride and that technician component to the maintainer. But I also want to see that maintainer, I want him or her to be working off a 21st century, device that can provide him or her their TM, provide him or her connection of diagnostics back to the sensors on the vehicle so they can see some of that on platform that you were talking about. I want to see them even have some virtual reality type equipment that they can bring down in a visor where they could almost watch the conduct of certain jobs before they execute. They could practice the job almost on some key jobs, like, removing a wheel assembly. I mean, and I know, right? You break something in your house and you can go fix it. I mean, I always talk about where the first place you're going. YouTube. You're going right there and looking at a video online. So I want that maintainer to be able to have a little virtual where they can see the job, practice the job, and then while they're doing the job, it can almost take them step by step with some augmented reality and/or machine learning to kind of say, hey, Homer Simpson, take a right-hand turn here. You need to grab this wrench and move this on this system and adjust this. I want them to be able to input jobs. I want them to be able to, request parts, order parts like they're civilian technicians. I mean, we need to move the system forward. Well, understand that in a disconnected environment or in a tactical environment, we have to watch, and so we not put anybody in harm's way. But I want them to be able to work off their system, not emit a signal, be able to work, even if it's in permissive environment, record whatever work they're going to do. And then when they get to an environment where they can uplink to some data, they can transmit the data, right? So, and then some progressive thinking. I get rolling on this because I love all this stuff. But I wanted to get some of your thoughts, if you think I'm tracking on some of that, or like what else would you think about for the future maintainers as you're thinking forward? I'm interested. Go.
This is a good one. I know requirements and everything we do is designed for combat, right, sir? That's right. I'll just use a garrison example right now. If we're coming off mission and we roll into the motor pool, if I'm in the motor pool, something already telling me as each platform rolls in what's going on. We have platforms right now that are censored with over 1,000 data parameters. That's a lot of information. Where does it go?
We got it.
Right, sir? So that's part of the problem. So the platforms are being made smarter.
They sure are.
But where's the data going? And I tell folks this. I know we had an exhort a while back to say, hey, download the data off the platform. I need you to go back out there and do it every 21 days. And I'm like, okay, I will download it today, and wherever it goes to get analyzed, and it comes back to me and tell me at my echelon what to do or what are these trends, I got it. But if you're collecting this data and it goes nowhere and you're not helping me and you're telling me to give it to you again in 21 days, it's not going to happen. So rolling in the motor pool, I know what's going on. The VR goggles, we've seen a few. I've played with a few. What I like about those, I have a platform and I need some help. I can call back. If I'm at FMT, I can call back at FSC, where Chief is, and say, hey, Chief, can you talk me through this? And Chief can see, hey, circle that, go into that, and explain to you through the goggles and through Teams or MSD, remove the part, do this. So we have that today. Being at JRTC a couple weeks ago, seeing how we use the demonstration, sir. I was sitting there. The unit is at JRTC. They use the MSD to call Lalor back at Fort Carson. Lalor dials in, was able to take over the MSD and walk the soldier through the item to go through all the steps and kind of help to diagnose the issue with the platform just right there. So we have some things going on the battlefield. To your point about signature, that's a concern, because if a LAR can see us or someone else can see us on the battlefield, someone outside the battlefield will likely be able to see us too. So the goggles are there. They're working. The platforms, like I said, we have things that are censored. Give us something to move forward with that. What are we doing with all that sensor data? It currently exists. We talked about the MSD, but the problem, sir, with military equipment, my opinion, they're made for combat. So you have G-force to your device earlier that you talked about. If I'm trying to put something on the Abrams, I can't use a little simple tablet because it has to be able to stand up to what an Abrams tank can stand up to. Things of that nature. Right. It's critical. Those are a few of the concerns.
Oh no, we need that. I just dropped my phone running the other day. You got to have the mil specs on the equipment, but that's tracking all.
And then trying to work the cyber piece and the wireless piece, especially on the ground side. I know for the combat service and service support side, what we've done before, and I've seen this, we've used the digital source collector ruggedized, or DSCR, connect those to the platforms, and we have it where we're able to say, I'll just make something up. Actually, we did this. Disconnect the TPS. It sends the signal from the platform, the DSCR, KCB set, and came back and able to deadline it on the 5980 Echo. It happens. But you're still going to need a maintainer based on how our vehicles are designed to still go in and confirm the fault. So we'll always have a role for us. There's smart platforms out there, sir. We just need to get smarter. We need to be able to take the data off wirelessly, get it analyzed, send it back down to units at the point of need, and echelon it. What goes down to the motor pool is the maintainer, so those system abort faults. But yes, we've piloted, we've demoed requirements. It all goes back to requirements, because you'll get folks say, hey, I can't do this because it's not in a requirement doc. I like the conversation yesterday, and I don't know if I can say this here, but if the CSA says it's a requirement, that was funny.
It's pretty good. I mean, I like to think that that's a requirement. So it pretty much clears it up for, hey,
it's a requirement.
That's right. The chief tells me it's a requirement. I now have my requirements document. I don't need to go much more into it.
First of all, I want to acknowledge there's a lot of good work going on now out there, and we've done a lot of good work with predictive maintenance and predictive logistics as a whole, and it's been going on for years. Now it's time to pick one. We got great teammates with the CFT and our teammates in the institution in CASCOM, and we'll make a call and move this thing forward. But the capabilities that you're talking about, much of it already exists, and we need to do it now. And so I look forward to doing it. What I think that our job here is we can continue to be a good catalyst for change at our level by helping refine those requirements. That's what we'll do. And then where we can enact change and knock down some barriers, we'll do it. We've used the lessons out of the war in Ukraine and at what we've seen in Eastern Europe. And we know that we want to extend our ability to do maintenance and distributed operations. So we're practicing things like telemaintenance, how we want it to work for our Army. You just saw us exercise something because we want to make sure in TACOM that our LARs at distance, and our LARs have been doing telemaintenance longer than many of us have been alive. They're like the original telemaintainers, right? Because they get a million phone calls from people. But we want to make sure that in whatever the battlefield geometry is, that they can connect to the right unit at echelon. So that's what I got us driving on, and teams rolling with it. We got smart people working on it. You went to see it at Fort Johnson and JRTC, and it's promising, right? We got some technology inside our house on our own devices that we can use, which is what we're trying to do, is employ our own technology, employ our own capability, and solve our own problems. And so I think pretty excited, but I don't know if you wanted to add anything else on that. I mean, we got some things to work out, but we're going to be sharing that with some units in the future, right?
Roger, sir. I think it went well just for the time that I was on ground, just to see how the concept worked. And one of the soldiers was not able to make the training at the time that was originally prescribed. So she was a follow-on. We went out in the field, and that was the instance when she logged on and called the LAR through the ABD. He came on and he was able to navigate her through the entire process at the time. They were actually diagnosed in a striker, so that worked out great. And right across from that was another telemaintenance call. We were on a JLTB, and through that effort, we were able to find out that there was a step in the TM troubleshooting tree that was missing.
Okay.
So the law will do a 2028 just to get that added to update the TM. So there's a lot of good that comes from it. So I will tell you,
Good.
I'm a fan of laws. I will tell you, I would not have been able to survive even during deployment, my Afghanistan deployment, and my LAR who was there with me, he now works here at TACOM, so we go way back. He meant a lot to me because there were things that even as a senior warrant, I was not able to get after. And going back to the MSD, we're as strong as our weakest link. We need that as maintainers. Some of our platforms, we cannot do maintenance without an MSD correctly. He was there for me out of his own pocket. He bought all the things to update our TMs and our MSDs. And so there are ones out there, sir, that will help us to get after it. And I understand, I like when my soldiers, if you can't figure it out, you come to me first before you even go see a LAR. So there's that. As long as we're doing everything internally, then if we all can't figure it, and sometimes chief is not there in their defense, and then they have to reach out and get to the LAR. But I think it's a great capability for our soldiers, sir. And I like the path that we're taking with the ASC certifications and because the LARs today, in my opinion, are deeper into what we do now than earlier. And there's now new requirements for them to have certain training. And I think that helps us on the battlefield. Same thing for soldiers with the whole ASC certification incentivizing us. Back to the question you asked about maintainers, putting that out there so you can go and get after it. Hey, I want to be different. So let me go get my ASC certification so I can be the best soldier. I can get promoted. Just incentivizing our maintainers should definitely help to retain us and make us feel special.
I'm with you. I'm all about incentivizing the maintainers because they're critical. They're unbelievably invaluable, and we invest so much. Whether it's things like credentialing, the skills badge, the technician badge that we've introduced, but also, honestly, where we can, we gotta be smart. We can't do this with everything, but where we fiscally can incentivize people to stay, we need to do it. It's that important because when we're going with what we have, no one's ever going to be 100% with any particular strength of any area, but those maintainers are gold. When we're fighting forward and trying to fix forward, I'd say more than ever, our LARs are critical to what we do on the battlefield because of the point of a couple things that we talked about. And wherever we go, and me and you travel all the time, what's almost the first thing everybody always says, sir, thank God for your LARs. Thank God for TACOM and for what you guys are doing and they mean it because those LARs and those people forward are filling some important roles. One is those LARs teach. And when you are up against constraints of time based on mission and you want a foundation, back to what we were talking about pretty early on in the conversation here today, was that when you are short time and you have to build on the foundation of knowledge, those LARs can teach forward. The other thing that they bring is they're intellectually curious. They will go help you, with whatever they can give you to make you successful. We as a community in TACOM, we got to help them more with access to TMs. So they're not struggling too in terms of pulling down what they need to, and we make them, successful in any environment where they're serving. And we're working on that. I mean, we're listening and we're attacking on all that for them. The other thing about it is, there's a lot of conversations sometimes. Well, if we introduce all these smarter systems that are more reliable, are we going to need as many maintainers? Well, as many systems as you're introducing, the data shows you're still going to need, in some cases, as much or more maintainers. And so you might have some reliability on one system, but that's in the aggregate based on the amount of systems you're coming at. And again, back to my zone defense comment, you're still going to have a very large component of technicians, but you're going to need technicians, like I said, who can problem solve at the point of attack because they might not, they might be pretty dispersed in some cases. So our laws are just unbelievable, and my hat's off to them all the time. And so the other thing too is we've seen a lot lately with what we've been doing and helping units as they get ready for training center rotations or deployments. Our depot mechanics that come out of the depot, the flyaway teams as we like to call them, and we employ them where they're working hand in hand with the field level maintainers. That too has become a very important resource because it's just not about the platform. The secret sauce is really that interaction between the experienced maintainer and the maintainer who's continuing to build knowledge and at the field level and giving them some more skills so that they can triage and fix forward, right? There's some great resources that we got out there across the Army, sustainment resource portal, things like that. I brought up the maintenance meeting playbook for our rising non-commissioned officers, warrant officers, and even our company grade officers as they're rising. that we got some great tools that even came out to the Ordnance School within the last 2 years that teach you how to run a maintenance meeting and roles. And there's a lot out there. From your perspective, anything that you want to advocate that our maintainers should be taking a look at? Because they got to be intellectually curious, like I say, too. They got to want it. They got to want to learn it.
Roger, sir. I do. One of the other challenge that we have, back to your original question, what are some of the issues or concerns? Maintenance management. It's a big one for us, and I will own that. That's on us. The M2 has changed a few times, and I'll give you an example where maintenance management hurt us, the warrants, that is. I remember the field artillery units. We had the 915 automotive warrant there, and we are normally the maintenance manager because we kind of manage everything. And the 913, the armament background warrant, they grew up into this little shop. They're stovepiped. Right. And then they get promoted, and then they were a warrant officer. And then the MTO changed to say, hey, I need you to go down into this field artillery unit, and you're the only warrant there for maintenance, and you need to make it happen. And it was a challenge for them. Of course, you had your good stories here and there, sir, a lot of pockets of success. Right. But across the board, they failed because that's not how they grew up. It's not their core competency. They work on weapons. That was their core. And so that was a good example, good data point to show that maintenance management is important. We are struggling with that. If you ask a lot of our peers, they will tell you that's the first thing. Of course, like I said, the platforms are getting smarter. The fleet is a little aged, for lack of a better term. But back to your question, sir, there are a lot of resources. First of all, every maintainer, even your 15th year, is aviation. Because remember, maintenance, sir, it's not just ground.
That's right.
Watercraft, locomotive.
It's everybody.
All of it.
We love them all.
Our regimental websites has a lot of resources. The Ordnance School, the CASCOM. Here at TACOM, we have UTAP for all your videos. Some folks don't know this. Right now, we have a corrosion issue in the formation, sir. Correct. Will never go away, corrosion, for the most part. But if soldiers go to the technical bulletin, some of those technical bulletins, when you click on their interactive links that take you to MillTube. Yes, there's YouTube, but we have MillTube too. And it will literally tell you how to, your platform down in the formation, look at it, how to inspect it for rust, how do you treat it, what do you do? It has a video made here by GBSC, or engineer arm of the Detroit Arsenal. And there's a lot of other videos that's on the UTAP website. So the first thing I'll say for anyone listening, if you have an issue or question or something, go to UTAP. We have a website there, a lot of videos that there's a reach back here to TACOM, a lot of teachings, a lot of resources. As a matter of fact, it's in my signature block. Every time I get a link that I can add to my signature block for resources, I put it there just so soldiers can find a way, because a lot of it is a lack of knowledge. Right. Even in our civilian world, sir, you probably learn about something because you heard it from someone. But I think the CASCOM website is also a good one to go to. A lot of playbook resources. The new FM 4.0 that just came out in August.
It's a good one. Great one.
This year. It tells us, things. The maintainers, again, I know I'm kind of saying what I said earlier, but the Ordnance School website is a great area to go to. And here again, TACOM, we have a portal website, and we have where we can direct you to anything. So those are just some resources. And sir, you said we were going to start up the TACOM 102 or whatever number we want to name it.
That's right.
That's a good resource right there to bring folks back to the arsenal, or we go out, or however we're going to do this.
I'm going to keep going out to our units. I want us to make sure that where we go out to our divisions or, brigade level type units that we're imparting. Really, the big thing, like you said lack of knowledge, but I just think it's sometimes, many cases, just unawareness. How can you leverage us? How can you connect us? And so, like I always say with advanced manufacturing, like, go check maintenance information message, 24-036 that we just put out, and it tells you kind of how you can access some of our capabilities. A lot of it is just empowering people and making sure that they know where to go. And I appreciate you laying out all those resources, because there's a lot out there, and I want our maintainers and I want even our operators to be curious and to make sure that they are being intellectually curious, and they know where to pull the tools from while we're doing things like improving network access for some of the maintenance support devices, and then also making sure that TM process is better and more responsive.
And another thing I have, sir, for the warrants, we have the forums now. So there's one called the Council of Forscom Fives. It started off with a whole bunch of maintenance W5. Now we have everybody in there because it was just a good little place to come and dump it all. Perfect example, sir, for the BDRF MEM, the 24-036 that you just mentioned. When we were writing it here and I needed some feedback from the field, like, okay, after we use the part on the platform and the OEM part comes in through the supply system, what should we do with the BDRF part that we take off? Some comments were like, hey, we can leave it down and bench down. No. So I threw it out there to the Council of Warrant Officers and say, need your input, need your thoughts. And they came back and say, hey, Maxine, it needs to go back to TACOM or JMT. So we got it. And our message worked out that way.
That's right. We used the feedback.
So from our travel, sir, going to the different AORs, Indo-PACOM, right now we're creating groups for each little pocket. So I can reach out to the team there. So we have, the FORSCOM team, and then we have the Indo-PACOM team, and we still got to make the USARAF team, USARA team, and just get all the ACOMs and the CASCOM team. So we have a community right now that we throw, literally, if I have something right now and I need some feedback from the warrant officer net is what I call us, I throw it out there. Some of them, sir, they'll jump on it like, right? They're in. That's what we do, right? Our job is to make this better. There's no more promotion. There's nothing else.
Nope.
As a W5, my job is to make this organization and the Army better. That is my sole purpose, to get after it, give back, make the military better. That's what we do.
Hey, I don't think you could have said it any better. And I think as kind of we hit toward the back end of our time here today, I think it's I think it's been great having you on here talking maintenance. I'm going to make it a little bit more about you for 1 second. You told me an interesting story about you didn't even realize that you were kind of getting inculcated in maintenance going back to, when you were young in Jamaica. Tell me about how you kind of became a maintainer, kind of where you think some of that came from, because I think it's fascinating. Go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, I'm a daddy's girl, sir. My dad and I, to this day, I'm a daddy's girl. There are two girls, and we each say we're daddy's girl. He knows how to play it. Again, this podcast, thinking about this made me think. I was like, wait a minute. My dad is a welder. He owned a welding shop.
He's a welder.
Across the street from my elementary school. And I had to go to dad every day for lunch money. That was our little thing. And we'd sit there and do lunch. But it didn't click all these years. I remember once we had some steel in the yard and he was like, hey, I need you all to lift this up. And I asked him about it. I was like, Dad, why do we have all that stuff in the yard? What were you doing? He was like, oh, I had a job down the street. But instead of taking it from the workplace, I decided to bring it here and then make it easier. So I was like, okay. But yes, my dad was a stick welder, so an arc welder. And I grew up in that. And sir, I am not making this up. I didn't even put it together till I was like, wait a minute. I grew up in this environment and it just didn't click. It's like,
see that?
So, and I was a tomboy, joined in the military. I learned early, if you're loud and motivated, they'll leave you alone. So that's why I'm a little loud, sorry. And I just keep going. I don't know how to stop. I just try to stay motivated, motivate the soldiers. One little fun fact, sir, and I told you I had a fun fact. I wanted to be a physician's assistant. And I don't know if you've been in long enough. Warrant officers, the physician assistants were warrant officers.
I did.
Back in the day.
I did. When I came in, that's what they were.
Okay. And then by the time I decided to put in a packet, they already switched over to O grade. I was like,
right.
I want to be an O grade officer. So that was all that. And the last fun fact, sir, I attended an all-girl Anglican school from 7th grade all the way through high school. I don't know if you know that, as much as I'm rowdy.
I did not know that, but it's all coming out now.
Yeah, Rogers are all girls school. Holier than thou.
See, and so those maintenance ties run deep, and I think it was great having you here today, and I definitely wanted to do this, and we will do it again. Maybe we'll include some of our other warrant officer teammates from out in the community down the line, but I think they would enjoy it, and I know I'd enjoy having them. So we're already in the middle of November. We got some great events coming up here in the coming weeks. We got some travel out to see some units. We're going to go to the DoD Maintenance Symposium coming up in December, so make sure we have our hats and our gloves as we head out to Utah for that. I think we'll have some more exciting content coming from you in the next couple episodes as we head in toward that holiday season.
And this was great, Chief. I really do appreciate it.
Roger, sir. Thank you.
All right, go Ordnance.
Go Ordnance.
We thank you all for listening. Hope you enjoy this episode of In General Terms, and we'll look forward to having you and connecting with you next time. I'm Major General Michael Lalor. This is In General Terms, and we are committed Texans, and this will defend.
These not words. Go Ordnance.